À vous les parlements.
À vous le Parlement.
À vous le Parlement.
Come funziona?
Wie funktioniert es?
Comment funciona eso?
Comment ça marche?
Bonjour à toutes et à tous, à vous le Parlement vous ouvre les portes du Parlement européen à travers un face-à-face suivi d'un débat. Pour cette session plénière à Strasbourg, Euradionantes vous propose un focus sur les relations de l'Union européenne avec les pays qui se trouvent hors de ses frontières. Les affaires étrangères de l'Union ont fait énormément parler d'elles ces dernières semaines au vu des événements en Ukraine. Comment le service diplomatique de l'Union européenne peut-il influer sur la situation de crise que connaît Kiev? Quel rôle joue le Parlement européen? Et l'accord d'association est-il nécessaire? Nous allons évoquer tout ceci en anglais puisque nous accueillons l'eurodéputé belge Mark Demesmaeker. Mark Demesmaeker, hello.
Hello.
You're a member of the group of the Greens European Free Alliance and you are a member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs here at the European Parliament. First of all, I've got a specific question. In Belgium, you're a member of the Nieuwe Vlaamse Alliantie. This party is more on the right wing, and here you're attached to the Greens, as I said, and the European Free Alliance, which is more seen on the left side.
Mm-hmm. No, the European Free Alliance is an association of parties. Some nationalist parties like SNP in Scotland, ECR in Catalonia, they are situated in the centre. Some of them are centre-left, some of them are centre-right, like my own party. But the main thing is our focus on the diversity of Europe, the right to self-determination of the nations without states, minorities. We take the defense for minorities, minority languages, and so on.
Okay, so this discussion is now done, and let's come back on the foreign affairs of the European Union.
Yes.
Even if we have the impression that it's the member states who are exchanging with their partners, the other countries, the European Union is working on its diplomacy at the community level. Almost 4,000 people are working for the European External Action Service, also called the EEAS. Concretely, how are working the diplomatic corps of the European Union? All the member states are consulted before the EEAS takes a decision or does a speech?
How the EEAS works in its daily work, I don't know. I'm a member of the Parliament. I don't know how they do this exactly. But what we see is that the European Union tries to have a common foreign policy, but that there is no common, or a lack of, let me say, a lack of common a lack of a common defense and security policy in common, which is supported by all the member states. Foreign policy is something that the member states want to keep for themselves, and I think we need a more common defense, foreign and security policy, because we see that in the other regions of the world, like Russia, it has been proven last few weeks, Russia is having a very strong geopolitical policy, has a vision, and Europe has no common vision about this.
And I think for you it's necessary?
For me, it's necessary. This is one of the added values of European cooperation, I think, that is, and we need this in this globalized world where other regions are having this vision, and they want what they are heading to. They know what they want, and we don't. We don't actually.
You say that you don't work at the European External Action Service, but your Committee on Foreign Affairs is linked to this external.
Yes.
So how is it working, the job between both institutions?
Well, there are exchange of views regularly in the Foreign Affairs Committee. That is true, but what I feel is that they are tied a little bit by hands and feet because the lack of this common European vision about our strategy towards our neighbors, our neighbors, our priorities, our strategic priorities.
It's in 2010 that the European Parliament approved the creation of the EEAS. It was put in place at the beginning of 2011. We are 3 years after. Would you say that it's satisfactory, the fact that we put in place this diplomacy?
Well, having this diplomacy is important, of course, and we have to start somewhere. It's a kind of an embryo of what we would like to see as a real common foreign diplomacy.
3 years were not enough, maybe?
No, I don't. Well, I think we need a generation to put this in place, and in one way, it's normal because foreign policy has long been, one of the things that the member states want to keep, of course, for themselves, and they still do. So this is an evolution we want to see.
Mark Demesmaeker, I propose you a focus on the person who represents the European External Service Action, Catherine Ashton. Cyril Douillard asked some MEPs about their opinion of the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy for the European Union. It's in French, I hope you don't mind.
Coup de projecteur.
Coup des projecteurs.
En novembre 2009, les chefs d'État et de gouvernement désignent Catherine Ashton pour incarner la voix de l'Union européenne. Donc, l'Union européenne aurait une voix. Si c'est le cas, elle est polyphonique. Catherine Ashton doit en effet composer avec les voix des ministres des Affaires étrangères des 28 pays de l'Union européenne, s'ajoutent celles des diplomates de chacun de ces pays, sans compter sur les chefs d'État et de gouvernement qui parfois interviennent tantôt en violon solo, tantôt en grosse caisse. Que l'orchestre soit dissonant de temps en temps, ce n'est pas vraiment surprenant. Mais pour Christian Dan Preda, eurodéputé PPE, membre de la Commission des Affaires étrangères, Catherine Ashton joue plutôt bien la partition.
Écoutez, moi je trouve que vu les contraintes de la naissance du service, vu les difficultés du dossier à traiter, elle a plutôt fait du bon travail.
Diriger la diplomatie traditionnelle, coordonner l'aide au développement, l'aide humanitaire, réagir aux multiples crises qui éclatent aux quatre coins du monde, représenter l'Union européenne dans les instances internationales comme les Nations Unies, construire le consensus entre les 28. À l'énumération des missions qui incombent à Catherine Ashton, on peut même se demander si la mission n'est pas tout simplement impossible. L'eurodéputée socialiste Ana Gomes, membre de la Commission des Affaires étrangères, présente le profil idéal pour le job.
Je crois qu'on a besoin d'un politicien, mais qui soit en même temps diplomate, ou un diplomate qui soit en même temps quelqu'un avec le sens politique et qui est prêt à se bagarrer pour pousser les intérêts de la politique extérieure européenne.
Catherine Ashton a sans doute encore à apprendre, peut-être de son homologue Hillary Clinton.
Cyril Douillard meant Hillary Clinton because she's a woman, but actually it's John Kerry, who is the current United States Secretary of State. Mark Demesmaeker, are you closer to the opinion of the EPP Christian Dan Preda or the socialist Ana Gomes about the work of Catherine Ashton?
I'm closer to Ana Gomez's view. I say I agree with her. Yeah.
So we need like a political person.
Yes, but first of all, and this was in the short piece we heard here, I can only agree. You know, it's a lack of a common vision, political vision on the level of the 28 countries. There it starts, and of course EES and Mrs. Ashton is she's doing her job, and she can't do better than what she's doing now because of the lack of this common vision, this common strategy, the will of doing this together with 28 countries. She has to, like we call in Dutch, over eieren lopen. She has to walk over eggs. That means she has to be very careful in what she says, what she does. And yes, this is reflected, of course, in the results and in the way she's acting. And as I said before, I think this is an evolution. We have to work on this. This is an evolution, and I hope we will go to a more integrated foreign policy on the level of the European Union. We need this. the crisis we are facing now with our Eastern partnerships, especially in Ukraine, proves that, Putin is master of the game now.
Because he's taking advantage of the fact that we don't have a common diplomacy?
Yes, he's taken advantage. He knows that we are weak. He knows that we have never invested in a common defense policy, that we have never invested in a real common security policy. He knows that we lack the power to do something, and he's taking advantage, indeed, of this situation, for sure.
Maybe we have to remind our listeners the facts. In November 2013, protests started in Ukraine. As we all know, it led to sanctions in Kiev, but also in the east of the country. Yanukovych was removed, and there is currently a transition government till the next election, the 25th of May. All of this situation has begun with one fact. Viktor Yanukovych, the former president, refused to sign the association agenda with the European Union. However, the European Union and Kiev worked a lot on this text before it was rejected.
Yes,
Yanukovych was quite pro-European, if we can say so.
Yes, it was a bit surprising. Well, not surprising. And I know the country quite well. I've been there several times the last couple of years. I've talked in preparation to this Vilnius summit and the signing of, or the not signing of the association agreement. I've talked a lot with also Ukrainian officials. I had a conversation here in the European Parliament with the permanent representative of Ukraine to the European Union just 2 weeks before the not signing of the agreement, where he told me we will sign.
Because they were sure?
Yes, we were. They were. At that moment, he told me they were quite sure. And then at the last moment, Yanukovych or his equipe has decided not to sign this agreement under pressure of Moscow. I'm very certain about this. But this was just, it is not the only reason for the protests, of course. This was just the, how do you say this?
L'étincelle? In French, but I don't know in English.
But I think that's right. But the real reasons are much deeper than that. It's the lack of democracy. It's the lack of an impartial justice. It's the uncertainty with which companies are faced, the corruption and all this. They want to change. This Maidan movement is a movement of the civil society of Ukraine. I visited Maidan twice. Last time was when hell broke loose, 19th and 20th of February last month. But I spoke with the Maidan leaders. They are originally the student organizations, unions and so on. This is the civil society of Ukraine who organized the resistance. They want just the change of rules. They want a modern democracy, not an oligarchy, but a democracy. And they look to Western Europe because they see the model there, of course, of what they really want is freedom, it's democracy. Not that we are perfect, of course, but they want to get rid of this system that which causes that few people, oligarchs, get richer, that Yanukovych could enrich himself and his family. Of course, there is political parties of the opposition have supported this Maidan movement, but originally it was not a political movement; it was a civil society movement.
Kind of revolution.
In
the wings, in the backstage, how did it work to establish such an agenda? How do we do in the Committee on Foreign Affairs to establish association agreement? How is it working, if we can explain it? Because it's years that we are talking about this.
Yes, and I've been only here for 1 year, to be honest.
Because you entered in February 2013.
I entered here in February 2013. At that moment, the preparation for the association agreement was on the way. So Ukraine has to do a lot of reforms in its judicial system and so on. And we in the Parliament, we follow that up. We get reports regularly, and we follow that up. We have hearings and so on. And by summer, by June, July, this was looking very good. You know, the reforms that were done in the Rada, so the Ukrainian Parliament. It was quite surprising that they did a good job. In fact,
What was missing?
Well, there was not much missing at that time, so they were complying, and we even, like I told you, I spoke with this permanent representative, and he was very proud that he could offer me, a sheet of paper with all the reforms they had already done, and the few reforms they had to do still. One problem, of course, was the imprisonment of
Yulia
Tymoshenko, who was still in prison. This was a very crucial point, which was not resolved yet, but there were
on the way.
They were on the way, maybe to take her over to Germany for medical treatment. So they were looking for a solution, a way out of this. But for the rest, this was looking quite good. But then in August, I was in Ukraine at that moment. Russia started, to act. They were closing the borders for some of the Ukrainian export products. And this was a sign also for me to say, Russia is interfering here. They don't want it. And they had made it clear that they didn't want it. And I think Europe has made there maybe a mistake. And I've said it here at several occasions, to offer Ukraine an or choice. Mm-hmm. You choose or for the European Union, or you choose or for Russian cooperation. The agreement, douane agreement.
Yeah, to have agreements with both parts were not possible.
Not for the European Union, but I've always told here, take good care, just take care, because this will not work. Ukraine has to cooperate both, and has to have the opportunity to cooperate both with the European Union and with Russia. You cannot deny the fact that a part of Ukraine in the east and in the south is Russia orientated. No, this is just a reality. Some people don't want to see this reality, but it is there.
So you think the European Union really tried to make distance between Ukraine and Russia?
Yes, I think they made a mistake there. They miscalculated. It's a mistake in the sense that they miscalculated it. They should have. They should have taken in mind that Ukraine is on the bridge between East and West, on the bridge between Europe and Russia. And Russia will always be there where it is now. It's a neighbor of Ukraine. The east and the south of Ukraine, believe me, I've been there, is orientated to Russia. They need Russia. They need the cooperation with Russia. And we have not taken that into account enough to make them make a choice between either European Union or Russia. We should have been able to find a way out of this, to satisfy both.
And according to Ukraine, the association agenda should finally be signed the 21st of March. What could it change for the country and also for the European Union?
I think we have... It would be good for us to have it is our border. It is our... the border of the European Union in the east, we border Ukraine. So it would be good if there is stability, if there is democracy, if there is a better welfare for all the citizens there. Because if we have instability there, we will feel it anyway.
But you think the association agreement can bring this?
Yes.
Because now there were conditions before before signing this association agenda. Mm-hmm. Finally, the conditions were just removed, and the member states decided.
Yes, but we have to act now. This is an urgent situation. We are faced with a crisis. It is not a moment now to think again and again and again. They have made progress in the past, as I explained you, so I think we should move fast now and offer them a perspective, a European perspective. Not that they should become a member state. We don't have to give them the perspective of becoming a member state, not at all, but cooperation, yes. It can be an added value for both for the European Union, for our companies and for the Ukrainian economy.
And it's not dangerous to sign such an agreement in the frame of the current tensions between the west and the east of the country?
We are faced with an aggression now, with an aggression from Russia. This is not the way we want to solve problems. We want to solve problems, and that's right to do so by diplomatic way. Russia is not doing it by diplomatic way, so we should act now very, very swiftly towards this agreement. But as I told you, we must take into mind that they will always be a neighbor of Russia, and we have to give them the opportunity to have good relations with Russia after this crisis will be resolved, I hope, and I hope that the Russians will withdraw from the Crimea and the rest of the country where they are now trying to mingle and to send troops and military. I hope they will withdraw, that common sense will come back, and that they will have the opportunity to work together also with the Russians, because the country needs it also.
And when you are discussing in the Committee on Foreign Affairs, you are taking in account the pro-Russian Ukrainian citizens?
Yes, I've always done that from the beginning because I know the country quite well.
But it's the position of the committee as well? Taking account this part of the country?
Not enough, no, because this is typical for this problem, the crisis in Ukraine. Most of the time, it is the MEPs from our eastern member states that are taking the floor.
You mean like Bulgaria, Romania, and so on?
Like the Baltic states, Polish. The Polish are, of course, have always had good relations with the Ukrainians. They are neighboring countries, and they take the floor in favor of Ukraine. And they are. I don't say they are anti-Russian, but they are very critical for Russia. I'm from the West. I know the country well. My fiancée is Ukrainian, so I know the country quite well. And I know that the reality is a bit more complicated than some of them want to describe it, yes. So we have to take into account that this country is diverse. There is a diversity. The West is different from the east and the south. The Crimea has always had a degree of self-government. It has a special statute within Ukraine. But I have never observed any problems, language problems. I have never seen it. Now, of course, this is a little bit I think exaggerated also by the Russian side to say, well, there is a problem with Russian speaking. No, I don't think so. But this is, of course, for them it's a reason to do what they are doing now. But we have to take into account this diversity, even respect it and promote it, because I'm from Belgium. There is a diversity there too. I think this is the only way we can get out of this crisis. Yeah.
What are the next steps for the Committee on Foreign Affairs here at the European Parliament? Will you still discuss the case of Ukraine?
Yes, of course. This will be on the table, I think, the next few weeks and months even.
For the next mandate as well, after the elections?
Yes, it will. Well, I hope the crisis will be resolved as soon as possible. But our cooperation with Ukraine, not only Ukraine, other countries in our Eastern Partnership region there, they will be on the agenda, of course, the next few years. This is just the beginning, because I can assure you, Ukraine has a long way to go. The standard of living, the economy, they need so many reforms. And if the European Union wants to help them with that, we will have a lot of work to do. And yes, we will be following this up, and it is important to do so, because they are our neighbors, and we want. I think it's very important for the European to have a good policy towards its neighbors, not only in the other continents far away, but in the first place our borders. Very important to have stability and good cooperation there, not only for one of the things that the Union was founded for the peace and the stability, but also economically.
We'll see that for the next elections, the 25th of May, the next European election, and also the elections in Ukraine. Thank you very much, Mark Demesmaeker. I just remind our listeners that you are MEP here at the European Parliament, that you're a member of the group of the Greens, European Free Alliance, and that you are a member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs. Thank you for being on Euradionantes. Je vous laisse en compagnie de Cyril Douillard pour la suite de À vous le Parlement en direct de Strasbourg. À bientôt.